Hello, this is Beyond the Verdict. Today, I'm bringing you a tale that even seasoned law enforcement officers found difficult to digest. As we delve into the heart of darkness, our story centers on Elizabeth Vasquez. Elizabeth, a woman of admirable fortitude, had dedicated her life to the well-being of her family. Her existence was that of any ordinary person, filled with the mundane tasks and the simple joys of life. She was known for her kind spirit and an unwavering work ethic, qualities that endeared her to all who knew her. Elizabeth's life was a testament to her values, hard work, perseverance, and love. She was a beacon of hope for her family, a symbol of strength. Her days were spent working tirelessly to provide for her only daughter, ensuring that she was afforded every opportunity, for a bright Elizabeth's daughter was her world, and she poured her heart and soul into creating a nurturing environment for her to thrive. Elizabeth's story was that of millions of hardworking parents around the globe. She was just another face in the crowd, a woman trying her best to navigate life's challenges. But unbeknownst to many, Elizabeth's life was far from ordinary. Behind the veil of normality, a shocking tale of greed and envy was about to unfold. This wasn't a crime of passion or a random act of violence. This was something far more sinister, something that would send chills down the spine of even the most hardened detective. It was a crime so unusual, so horrific, that it would shake the very foundations of our understanding of human nature. As we peel back the layers of this unsettling saga, remember, this is not just a story of a crime. It's a story about a woman, a mother, whose life was upended in the most unimaginable way. Little did Elizabeth know, her life was about to take a dark and unexpected turn. On an ordinary day, Elizabeth's life was turned upside down. The sun had risen as always, casting warm, golden rays on the quiet suburban neighborhood where Elizabeth Vasquez lived. She woke up, just like any other day, ready to tackle her daily chores with the unwavering determination of a loving mother and a diligent worker. The morning was spent in her usual routine, making breakfast, getting her daughter ready for school, and preparing for a long day at work. As the day wore on, the neighborhood buzzed with its typical activity. Children playing, cars passing by, the humdrum of an average day echoing in the background. But this day was to be far from ordinary. It was a day that would etch itself into the annals of criminal history, a day that would turn the quiet life of Elizabeth Vasquez into a horrifying nightmare. As the evening approached, an eerie calm settled over the neighborhood. The children had returned home, the streets were quiet, and the usual bustle had subsided. Elizabeth, having returned from work, was preparing dinner, oblivious to the impending storm that was about to hit her life. Suddenly, the tranquility of the evening was shattered. A sound, a scream, a crash. It was as if time stood still. The world around Elizabeth spiraled into chaos, and her life as she knew it was about to change forever. In the blink of an eye, the ordinary day had turned into a fateful one. The home that had once been her sanctuary was now the scene of a crime so heinous, so unimaginable, that it would leave a lasting impression on everyone involved. Yet, amidst the shock and horror, Elizabeth stood strong. She was a fighter, a survivor, and she was not about to let this incident break her. But little did she know this was just the beginning. The day had ended, but the nightmare had just begun. What happened next was something no one could have anticipated. As the police began their investigation, they found themselves in a maze of confusion and horror. The initial stages of the investigation were anything but ordinary. The detectives, seasoned in their field, felt a chill crawl up their spines as they stepped into the crime scene. The atmosphere was heavy with an unspeakable dread, a testament to the atrocious act that had taken place. The first hurdle they faced was the sheer brutality of the crime. The intensity of the violence was such that it obfuscated any immediate leads. Elizabeth Vasquez, a woman known for her kindness, had met a fate so cruel it left the most hardened officers aghast. The second challenge was the lack of concrete evidence. The perpetrator had been meticulous, leaving behind no obvious traces. Every potential lead seemed to lead to a dead end. The evidence was either too scarce or too ambiguous. It was as if the criminal had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only a haunting memory of their cruelty. Moreover, the unusual nature of the crime added an extra layer of complexity. The motive was not immediately apparent. Elizabeth was a hard-working woman who lived a simple life. She had no known enemies, no dark secrets, no debts. Why would anyone target her with such ferocity? This mystery loomed over the investigators like a dark cloud, casting a shadow over their efforts. The police, however, were not deterred. They knew they were dealing with a cunning adversary, but they were equally resolute. They scoured every inch of the crime scene, interviewed potential witnesses, and dug into Elizabeth's past. They were determined to unmask the monster behind this heinous act. The investigation was akin to navigating a labyrinth in the dark. With every step they took, they hoped to find a ray of light, a clue that would lead them to the truth. But the path was treacherous, and the darkness loomed large. The police were at a loss, but they were determined to solve this case. As they delved deeper into the investigation, they steeled themselves for the horrors they were yet to uncover. They knew that this was just the beginning, and the road to justice would be long and arduous. As the investigation progressed, the police began to uncover a horrifying truth. In the midst of the chaos, the detectives were relentless, meticulously piecing together the puzzle that was the Vasquez case. Every clue and every lead were scrutinized under their watchful eyes. The first breakthrough came with a series of bank transactions, irregular and large sums, all linked to Elizabeth Vasquez's account. These transactions were not consistent with her lifestyle and raised the alarm. It was a lead, a thread that needed pulling. Next, they discovered a suspicious character, a man named Richard, who was frequently seen in Elizabeth's vicinity. Richard, a man with a shady past who was known to the local police for petty crimes. However, the link between Richard and Elizabeth wasn't clear. Yet the shadows of suspicion began to creep in. Then the detectives found something chilling, Elizabeth's diary, a record of her thoughts, fears, and hopes. In it, there were entries about a growing fear, a sense of dread that seemed to revolve around her own daughter. It was a fear that was palpable, a fear that painted a worrying picture. The pieces were slowly falling into place, each one more chilling than the last. The investigation was leading them down a dark path, one they were hesitant to tread. Yet it was their duty to follow where the evidence led, no matter how horrifying. And then the most shocking piece of evidence came to light. Elizabeth's phone records showed frequent calls to an unknown number. The number belonged to a known criminal, a man with a history of violent crime. The connection was disturbing, to say the least. Every piece of evidence was like a piece of a horrifying jigsaw, a picture of a life unraveling, a life teetering on the edge of a precipice. Each clue led them closer to the truth, a truth they were afraid to confront. The truth, when it finally emerged, was more horrifying than anyone could have imagined. This story, this journey into the depths of human depravity, was far from over. The final chapter was about to be written, and it promised to be a shocking conclusion to a tale that no one would soon forget. In the end, the shocking truth behind Elizabeth's story was finally revealed. The investigation, riddled with countless twists and turns, had finally reached its climactic conclusion. The person responsible for the heinous act against Elizabeth Vasquez, a woman known for her kindness and hard work, was none other than her own flesh and blood. Her daughter, the very person Elizabeth had devoted her life to, had orchestrated the terrible crime against her mother for one simple reason: greed. The promise of quick wealth had led her to betray the one person who had given her everything. A revelation that shocked everyone involved in the case, from the seasoned investigators to the people who had known Elizabeth and her daughter. The reactions were a mix of disbelief and horror. Many struggled to comprehend how a daughter could commit such an atrocity against her own mother. The community was left reeling, mourning the loss of a beloved member, and grappling with the chilling reality of the daughter's actions. As for the daughter, her fate was sealed. The court showed no mercy, handing down a sentence that reflected the severity of her crime. She was to spend the rest of her life behind bars, a fitting punishment for someone who had allowed greed to overshadow love and kinship. And with that, the case of Elizabeth Vasquez came to a close. A tale of love, betrayal, and unimaginable greed that had taken a devastating toll. It was a story that would linger in the minds of the community, the investigators, and everyone who heard about it. This case was a stark reminder of the depths to which human greed can sink, leaving even the most seasoned investigators shocked and horrified. A chilling testament to the fact that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are not lurking in the shadows, but are hiding in plain sight within the very people we trust and love.